Hi there, my name's Bernie Mitchell, and I have lived experience with bipolar. I'm on the board of Bipolar Australia, and also a published author of the book Bipolar, A Path to Acceptance. Today, what I wanted to share with you was my journey with bipolar, which is going over the last 23 years. It's been a lot of ups and downs. I've learnt a lot, that's for sure. And it's been challenging. And whilst dealing with this, it's actually made me be able to deal with other problems I've had in my life, having dealt with such a challenging condition. First of all, I guess I didn't feel myself back in 1999. Went to a couple of doctors. They didn't know what was wrong. Third opinion, I was diagnosed with depression, quite severe depression. It took another 5 months before I was actually diagnosed with bipolar. I understand, though, that's quite quick for diagnosis, and people can be many years more before they're ever diagnosed. And that's just quite simply because people don't present as often, or you don't know what to look for when you're not looking for anything at all. So I guess my journey with psychiatrists and psychologists did start quite early, and that enabled me just to get on with it. I think one of the biggest things upon getting diagnosed is, well, it's sort of a sense of relief in one way, but the big issue for me was, this is a life sentence. I've got this for life. What's my life going to look for me? I had a partner at the time. Is our relationship going to be able to make it through this? I had other plans and goals in my life that I wanted to achieve, and I was very big on chasing those. And that was all at the age of 23, right at the age when, your early adult life, and you just got big plans you just want to meet. So I guess a big part of not just being diagnosed, but I guess expecting that your life will never be the same, and you have great concerns that it ever will. That was a big part of my, my reasons for going to a psychologist and helping me deal with that. And the psychiatrist, excuse me, my psychiatrist to deal with, the medication adjustments and the other side of things. As far as it comes to medication, that was an absolute roller coaster, I have to say. I mean, I went through around about 7 medications. That's on and off over a period of about, I think it was over more than a year. And as many of you can imagine, going from one medication and the side effects leading up to the side effects coming off and going through that, which is really tough. It's tough on the mind, it's tough on the body, it takes the life out of you, and it's a very difficult process. I mean, also, while that was occurring, mood stabilizing medication, we started on that. Again, where do we start? What medication do we start? How much do we start? And then what changes do you make in the future? Now, for me, that process went on for 3 years until we really got somewhat stable. And ever since, it's had its ups and downs, but it's pretty been so much stable for about the last 20 years. And this is something that is difficult to achieve, but we really need, to have that in place. I guess one of my biggest things that I could offer in advice to anyone with this condition is that you are the person that is in control of your life. Normally, you'd go along to a doctor. Let's say you've got a broken arm. The doctor tells you what needs to be done, and it's done. As a patient, it's rare that we'd ever question something like this. But when it comes up to something like mental illness, be it depression, be it bipolar or otherwise, we have to be the ones that help guide the doctors involved in our life, because this is our life at stake. You cannot leave it just to a professional to do it. They're not the ones that are living your life. They're trying to make things as best they can. But you're the one on the ground. You're the one that are having the changes in your life. And you're the ones that are ultimately affected. Um, Now, this is not easy, because when you've going through bipolar depression, it's tough to be in that headspace. And all I can say is to be mindful of this, to be making notes of all of this sort of stuff so that you can get through. I wanted to share some stories that were about me when I was, manic or otherwise. I'm sure that you could all relate to your own stories, but I would catch the train into Sydney CBD each day and then just walk to work. Well, on my days that I felt a little bit more energetic, I used to be in a full suit and I literally used to skip to work. Now, at the time, had no idea that this was inappropriate or this is not something that normal people would do. This was just something that seemed normal. And I guess that's one side at the entertaining end. But if we look at, say, the more severe aspects, one occasion I was in traffic, I was driving, and suddenly this overwhelming urge came out to drive my car into the back of the car in front. This was no reason to do this. No one had given me cause to carry out something like this. The driver in the front of the car had not done anything. This was all something that was going through my own mind. The next moment, in the same place, I look up at the top of a 10-story building. And I have to tell you, I looked up at the top of that building and I thought that I could jump off it and land it on my feet. That's when I got scared. In that moment, I realized I was in a manic episode and I was not far from home. So I got home and straight away called my doctor. That same night, I was admitted into a psychiatric hospital to help manage this condition. So this is a pretty big deal for me because I'd never been admitted into hospital for such a manic condition. And this is about 2001. So this is 3 years in. Now, also just to mention, I guess, a bit of background as well. My first time that I had an encounter into a psychiatric hospital was back in 1999. And that's where my medication for depression was not working. Now, a decision was made between myself and my psychiatrist to have electroconvulsive therapy. Sort of a bit of a last resort. Works for around about 80% of patients, I'm told. Unfortunately, not for me. But that gives you a bit of background that now I've been since 1998 to 2001. We've got now 2 visits to psychiatric hospitals. If we sort of look into the future to give you a bit more of how my condition has unfolded over the years, I've actually been in hospital around about 5 to 6 times over that period. And some of those I'll talk about later. So basically, for the years back in the late 90s into the 2001, I couldn't work. No, I couldn't either work at all or I could only work part-time. As far as my condition goes, I was cycling between highs and lows every 20 minutes. It was absolutely exhausting. So I could not keep this up for more than sort of 2 or 3 hours a day that I tried to work. If I wanted to try and work a little bit more, I'd literally go and have a little sleep in the stationery cupboard, or stationery room, I should say, at the office and lock the door so no one could get in. But look, back then, I just did what I had to do. And I have to say, as hard as it was to work and as hard as it was to actually be producing anything much in the way of work, it gave me a sense of achievement. It got me out of the bed. I had to brush my teeth and do my hair, which was bloody hard sometimes and sometimes impossible. It got me on a bus, it got me on a train, and I made it to the office. To do all of that for someone that is pretty much in a situation that could not be worse, it made me feel really, really great to be having that sense of achievement rather than sit at home and watch TV and feel sorry for myself. So over that period where I wasn't able to work, I spent a lot of time at the gym. Now, this was started off initially just because I wanted to get fitter. Then what I found, of course, that the amount of exercise that I was doing was getting that, feel good sensation into the brain, and it became quite addictive. And the more I did it, the better I felt mentally, the better I could perform. So at the time, I was working part-time. And the more I did this, the way things increased at work and my abilities improved. I was training for the City to Surf run. And ultimately, it was that training that I was doing so hard got me back into full-time employment, which was an amazing thing. And I achieved that back in 2001. Like I've already mentioned, getting into work and getting into full-time employment was amazing. Feeling that you're actually contributing, feeling that you're getting things back as well. Now, despite this roller coaster ride that I was on, particularly in the first sort of like 5 years, that didn't stop me doing a lot of things that were quite big in my life. So only 2 years after diagnosis, and I was still barely working, it didn't stop me from marrying Samantha, who was my partner at the time. And we've been together for about 7 years. So that was great. We had moved out of home already back at the age of 23, 24. So that alone, I was not being supported at home. We were living, on our own and by our own means. And so this was also very good, for my mental health and having some form of, I guess, accountability, and, things needed to be done. What was also important is that, once you're in a depression or you're busy fighting one of these episodes in bipolar, is that you lose track of the larger, bigger plans in your life that you'd like to do. You're too focused on just getting through day by day, week by week at best. And I was fortunate enough to have a partner where she would keep the light shining on what it was we wanted in the future, how that looked. And she'd keep reminding me, so that, that was always at the forefront of my mind. And, I guess I didn't just fall back into, my bipolar state in a negative way. And I realized, many people with bipolar don't have someone that is living with them, or don't have a partner that can help. And that one I will come to a little bit later when it comes to a support team that you should have around you. And I'll come back to that. As far as regaining a sense of freedom goes, this is all about knowing your enemy, and that's your bipolar. You've got to learn the ins and outs from your doctors, from your psychologists. It's the only way to make it. It really is. Tapping into that knowledge that they can share. What I did in the beginning, and I still do to these days, is I'll keep a log, how many hours I would sleep, what type of sleep I got done, was it good, bad, restless, any medications that I'm adjusting at night within the doctor's, constraints. These are the sort of things that I would do. Did I exercise? What was my mood like for the day? Give it a rating. Very basic information, but when you take this over time, um, there are patterns that emerge. And not only will the doctor see them, but you'll see them. And this really helps for changes to be made in the management of your condition far quicker and efficiently. And, in many cases, maybe using the same medication, but probably not as much as required. So when, you do this, it's an absolutely awesome outcome, because I know before I did this, you wake up in the morning, you feel very sluggish, you feel like a bit of a hangover from many of the medications. Where if you've got those, and you're optimizing yourself on that, it's going to be an awesome effect on your entire day, how that plays out, because that's setting you up for your day. As mentioned earlier, I want to now talk about your bipolar management team. So what you need is to have a group of people around you that can help you manage your condition. Now, first of all, you need to take 50%, 51% responsibility minimum, because it is about your life and it's your condition, and you need to actually be actively involved. Now, the rest can be from things like your doctors, be it your psychiatrist, be it your psychologist, be it friends, be it family members, be it your, if you've got a fitness coach, what have you. All of these people are involved in your condition and how that looks. For me, I included all of these people in my condition. I actually included some other people that they actually, you wouldn't think that they become important, but they were people that I saw every day, and they gave me a reason to smile, and I also gave them a reason to smile. I would be walking days to work in the city, and I walk past this lady, and she sells flowers. And in walking past, at least 2 to 4 times a day, I ended up getting speaking with her, because I'd buy flowers for my wife. And every time I walk past, and now even 20 years later, I'll walk past and, we have a good chat, we have a hug, say hi, goodbye. And she's become a person that I value in my life. And I guess it's not just some random stranger. I had that sort of same thing happen with my tailor. I had that with the people that in the car park where I parked my car. They became people in my daily life that contributed to people that I could talk to, and it has expanded, I guess, the number of people that were involved in my life on a daily basis. Because let's face it, when you're suffering from bipolar, there's times you don't want to talk to people, but when you're dealing with these somewhat what were strangers, they're the ones that are actually there a lot of the time, and you don't realize just how important these little things are. At the end of the day, it is the little things in life that count, and not these the big ones, and waiting for something that's going to change immediately. Just like bipolar, it's an investment. It's a big investment in time with your doctors to learn about your condition. I mean, I like the analogy of learning to sail a boat, right? You could learn to sail in the boat as much as you like, but as far as that can be done, you will never, ever be able to learn in advance what every condition is out there that you could face. And this will just come with experience. And you'll just have to learn to manage these, I guess, but utilize the training you've had from your doctors to really get through those challenges. As far as medication goes and being resistant to that, I can certainly relate. I've been on many medications, many adjustments at the one time, but I cannot stress how important it is to keep to the medications that you're actually on and to take them regularly. If you don't, you're not going to get the results. You're not going to improve. And this is why, as mentioned earlier, you talk to your doctor and you update them on all the items such as sleep, exercise, and the rest. And you take those notes to your doctor visit. In regards to your bipolar management team, I wanted to raise attention to something that I learned only recently. So basically, for the first almost 20 years, I had a life partner, Samantha, and very happily married. That ended quite abruptly, and certainly for no relation to bipolar. In doing so, she was very a pivotal part in managing my condition. And whilst being my life partner, she was my best friend. And in going through that divorce, I had to adjust how I managed my condition. And what changed was I certainly spent time on increasing my friends that around me, but they also become and really took over the role that she had. And I was fortunate to have a good small group of quality friends that I could go to. We're talking about 3 or 4 people. If there was any issues, because my bipolar did flare up after that divorce. So if you don't have a partner, you're single, please use your friends where you can. They are vital. They've been vital to me, and they don't need to give you advice. You don't need to ask for advice most of the time. You just want someone to just be there and give them some company. That's what I've learned, and that's typically what I'm after. On a final note, I've saved the most important thing for last, and that is acceptance. Acceptance of your condition is the most important thing that you could ever do. It is something that will never go away. You're going to most likely need medication, and it will impact on the way that your life that you thought would go, and it's going to go on a different tangent. But you need to equally accept, and I can tell you from 23 years of experience, that you can learn to manage it and manage well. You can work full time. You can have a family like I did, but probably you don't want 5 kids like I did. I had a partner for 24 years, which I loved every minute of. Your life can be everything that you want it. You've got to put in the effort as long as you can accept it. And on that note, I wish you all the best for World Bipolar Day.